Watching the first 2 sagas of the Boo chapters put a big smile on my face throughout. Seven whole years have passed in the Dragon Ball universe as Gohan has gone from a 9-year-old boy to a 16-year-old teenager. Quite a bit has changed since we last saw these cast of characters. Gohan has now been enrolled into public school, Krillin at 18 got married, Vegeta has settled down even though he won't admit it, more on that later, and Chi-Chi has become more lenient and has given birth to a second half Saiyan, Goten. And I can't forget that Mr. Satan has become a world celebrity since he supposedly defeated Cell. Things have been quiet since Cell was defeated, and, well, you'd think there's really nowhere else to go, but there is. This is where Toriyama experimented with what he had. The end result is the Great Saiyaman. Obviously inspired by Super Sentai, or as known here in the States, the Power Rangers, Gohan becomes a superhero after stopping a number of robberies, but then goes to Bulma for a costume thinking that people will eventually figure out it's him. He becomes the Great Saiyaman. We get a new supporting cast within the school, and while 2 of them are disposable, a nice new addition is Videl, the daughter of Mr. Satan, a sassy, demanding martial artist who on her downtime fights crime and aids the police force. Wait a minute. You're telling me the police force openly asks for help from a teenage girl? I know she's the daughter of the champ and she can defend herself in a fight. That's good and all, but she's not bulletproof. She's not superhuman. She could die. Does that not cross anybody's mind? Just me? Okay, he did the best with what he set up, and I had a fun time with the Great Saiyaman arc. But where the real fun begins is the build-up for the 25th World Martial Arts Tournament. You see, she suspects that Gohan is Saiyaman, and does eventually find out that Gohan is Saiyaman by calling him out, and instead of denying it like anyone else, and maybe even laying off being Saiyaman for a while, he just admits it openly, just like that, with hardly any resistance. Well, the plot does have to continue, so she blackmails him to teach her how to fly. After all that's settled, Gohan enters the tournament along with most of the Z fighters, Goku as well, as he gets a day pass from the other world for all the good deeds he's done over the years. The 25th World Martial Arts Tournament is one of my favorite Dragon Ball arcs of all time, because there's no big bad or world-ending threat that needs to be stopped. It's just our cast of Dragon Ball characters doing what they do on their downtime. Everything is fine in the world. It's got a laid-back, fun atmosphere that I love seeing in Dragon Ball.
Better give me your best shot, Runt! Come on!
Just one problem. You're nowhere strong enough for my best shot. Maybe I should have gone easier on him than that. Nah, that kid was a punk.
After all that's happened in the previous 10 years or so in the Dragon Ball universe, with the last handful of arcs, where we've gotten villain after villain after villain, new threats, new forms, I'm at the point where we've seen enough power escalation and world-ending threats that just seeing the characters take it easy is all I need.
Oh man, this stuff's amazing.
Right? Hey, can we get another round?
What is with these people?
Fun arcs like these take me back to a time where you're just hanging out with the Dragon Ball cast. We get returning characters that we haven't seen in a while, like the tournament announcer.
I don't believe it! It's you! You finally came back! Hey! Do you have any idea how long I've been waiting for you to show your faces again? It's been years! I feel like I should definitely buy a lottery ticket because this is my lucky day! Mr. Satan didn't defeat Cell, it was you guys doing all the heavy lifting, am I right? Come on, I wasn't born yesterday!
Who recognizes the Z Fighters and even knowing that it wasn't Mr. Satan's doing that the world is still intact. Nice callbacks and funny gags throughout. Goten and Trunks spotlighting their friendship. Yes, the son of Goku and Vegeta are best friends, but their dads can't seem to get along. There's so much to like about this arc. It's a nice throwback, but it has to end eventually because when the adult division of the tournament begins, the tension ramps back up with a new evil. No, not those guys, but admit it, you thought they were evil too. With the introduction of the Supreme Kai and Kibito, it gets back to dark writing, and while they do have an ominous presence, at first, they aren't what they seem to be. The greater evil that's hinted at isn't too developed, as Babadi and Majin Buu are shown in the last 10 episodes out of these 3 arcs. They get more development after their initial introductions. But while all that is going on, we do get a good conclusion to the 25th World Martial Arts Tournament.
Hey, you kids fighting his mighty mass! You're disqualified! Stop it!
Wait, we're disqualified?
Uh-oh. Time to go.
Very satisfying. The characters that get the most development are Gohan, Videl, Goten, Trunks, Mr. Satan, and Vegeta. Not in that order. Gohan and Videl's relationship goes from non-existent to martial arts related to friendship to possible couple, all within a span of 25 episodes. Even Toriyama himself has said he's not good at romances. This is believable enough. Goten and Trunks' personality traits and friendship are on full display throughout. Goten acts like his dad during his younger years and even looks a lot like him, almost an exact copy. This Trunks is cocky, driven to be like his father, and wants to fight with the big boys. They're living the life that Gohan and future Trunks wish they lived. Mr. Satan's ego is on another level in these sagas, but is left being humiliated most of the time as a gag. And no one from the general public sees right through him. Well, except the Z Fighters.
Now sit back and enjoy!
Ha ha!
That's their Cell? We will stop you, Cell Monster! That's me!
One of my personal favorite character arcs is seeing Mr. Satan's road to being humbled, and his further character depth begins right here. And finally, Vegeta. He can't seem to settle when Goku's around. He feels like he has something to prove, feeling humiliated and hating Goku all these years for not only surpassing him and claiming his birthright, but also being saved by him and Goku's own son surpassing him. Vegeta's pride has just had enough. And with all the distractions and amount of waiting, Vegeta's patience also snaps. And with Majin Buu looming, he's not about to have Goku hang this one over his head either, like with past villains. He wants to settle it himself. Majin Buu isn't at all what you'd expect, but because Toriyama is in full control of the story, what seems harmless and innocent is anything but that. His appearance isn't menacing, but once he starts to fight, he's all he's cracked up to be. Just like with Cell, there's even a bit of a horror angle. I love the soundtrack a lot. It's very 90s, and very 90s to me is a great thing. It's meant to be reflective of the time the Buu saga came out, which was the mid-90s in Japan. A lot of these tracks are fun and laid back, much like the first two sagas. It reminds me a lot of the soundtracks you'd hear during the late 90s in the N64, PS1, and Dreamcast video game titles. One of the tracks sounds like what I think would play at a mall around that time period. When things get more serious, there's a lot of really good fight tracks and dramatic music pieces. Kudos to the 90s S-Core. With all that happens in this saga, all the twists and turns, all the warriors that took on Buu and failed, their best shots at beating Buu are out of the picture, and even though I've seen this series hundreds of times, it really does keep you on your toes with the menacing atmosphere Buu sets, despite his harmless looking appearance. The last warrior that can take on Buu is Vegeta, and this fight caps off his long running road to redemption. For the first time in Dragon Ball, he's performing a selfless act and fighting to save the planet. It's just perfect. Until the next episode. If you didn't know, Akira Toriyama really hates Vegeta. And even though his sacrifice was all for nothing and Majin Buu still lived, despite that, it really did finish his character arc gracefully, and I still get sad every time I see Vegeta's atonement. I will give the Great Saiyaman Saga a recommendation. The 25th World Martial Arts Tournament is a masterpiece, and the Babadi Saga is near perfection. With the threat imminent, there's only one hope left. Join me for part 6. New forms and techniques are on display. I'm Leon Mars with the MC Impressions crew, and I'll see you next time.